Have you ever stopped to think about why some women who live alone seem to carry an invisible force? A presence that depends on no one, yet fills the space as if made of silent light. They don't need to explain themselves. They don't ask for permission. They don't compete. They simply vibrate. And that vibration changes everything around them. But what lies behind this force? Is it just personality? Is it only independence? Or is there something deeper, more invisible, more quantum? Science is beginning to reveal what spirituality has always intuited. When a woman lives alone and truly learns to be with herself, her energetic field transforms, her emotions realign, her mind reorganizes, and her vibration rises. In this video, we'll enter this mysterious and fascinating territory. We'll explore what neuroscience, epigenetics, quantum physics, and vibrational wisdom reveal about the hidden power of feminine solitude. We'll understand why a silent home can become a laboratory for accelerated evolution, and why this woman, often underestimated, is in fact a living field of conscious creation. You'll discover how living alone can reprogram the brain, refine intuition, heal deep emotions, activate personal magnetism, and open portals to a new reality. If you feel that being alone is more than just absence, if you sense that something sacred is happening there, even without knowing how to explain it, then this video was made for you. Because perhaps, for the first time, you'll understand that living alone is not an end. It's the beginning of a new frequency, one that can transform everything, including you. There is a hidden intelligence in the silence that surrounds a woman when she lives alone. An intelligence that does not reveal itself in dialogues or social connections, but in the moments when the only presence is her own. That is when the body begins to slow down, the mind finds a new rhythm, and the nervous system, so accustomed to living on alert, finally learns to rest. It's not just relief, it's neuroscience in action. In a calm environment, cortisol production, the stress hormone, decreases significantly. The brain stops operating in survival mode and enters a state of regeneration. This subtle yet profound shift allows for the flourishing of creative, introspective, and spiritually revealing processes. The absence of constant stimuli is not an obstacle. It's an invitation for the mind to listen to itself again. When there is no external noise, neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to transform, strengthens. New neural pathways begin to form, and these pathways are not born from the repetition of old patterns, but from the connection with something more intimate, inner listening. Solitude creates the ideal setting for you to become your own emotional reference, without depending on outside validation. In this environment, you don't just feel, you learn from what you feel. Bruce Lipton affirms that the environment shapes not only behavior, but also the expression of genes themselves. This means that living alone, when experienced consciously, becomes an epigenetic choice. You are literally altering your biology by creating a vibrational field of peace, safety, and freedom. Silence, in this context, is an invisible medicine that reaches every cell of your body. By transforming your home into a sacred space, not with grand rituals, but with everyday gestures of presence, you activate the healing power of the environment. The way you organize the space, the sounds you allow in, the objects you choose to keep close, all of this communicates to your nervous system. Here, you are safe. And when the body feels safe, it heals, it flourishes, it creates. In this silent home, the mind doesn't just rest. It reinvents itself. And what once seemed like mere loneliness reveals itself as a vibrational field of inner reconstruction. The woman who lives alone gradually realizes that the greatest noise was the one coming from within, and now at last she can hear what was always there, waiting to be heard. There is a wisdom that only reveals itself when the walls of the house fall silent, and the only witness to your feelings is yourself. Living alone transforms the relationship with your own emotions, because without external mirrors, without distractions, without the need to explain yourself, everything that was once ignored begins to emerge. And it is in this involuntary and inevitable dive that a new kind of strength is born. A strength that doesn't shout, doesn't impose, but transforms. Solitude deactivates the emotional escape valves. There's no one to take out frustration on, no one to distract you from pain, no one to divert you from fear. And what could seem like punishment reveals itself as the greatest gift, the opportunity to learn to observe yourself without running away, to learn to breathe in the middle of discomfort, and in that space, find answers that the rush of social living always silenced. In this intimate space, a woman learns to name what she feels, to embrace it without judgment, and then to release it. This is the quantum cycle of inner healing. There is no magic, no ready-made formulas. There is presence, there is awareness, there is honesty. Emotions cease to be invisible monsters and become precise signals. They reveal wounds that were once anesthetized by the world's noise, and by allowing herself to feel deeply, she learned something no one can teach: self-transmutation. Without social mirrors, those gazes that mold us, that make us play roles, the solitary woman clearly sees the true origin of her pain. And yes, it hurts, but it also frees. Because by realizing that many of her reactions are not born from the present, but from old memories, unseen absences, unspoken needs, she regains the power to change, to stop reacting and begin choosing. It is like the cycle of the tides. Emotion, when not fought, reveals its rhythm. It comes, floods, and goes away. And if welcomed with consistency, with gentleness, it ceases to be a threat and becomes a teacher. Instead of drowning, it guides. Instead of blocking, it opens paths. This emotional mastery is not born from strength or control. It is born from silence, from listening, from the courage to remain, because only those who stay with their own pain, without fleeing, without seeking immediate relief, discover what lies behind it. And what lies there is often just a version of yourself that only wanted to be seen. Living alone is, in this sense, a spiritual training, a field of practice where every emotion becomes a chance for healing, every crisis an initiation, and every solitary tear a sacred form of reconnection. When there is nowhere else to run, all that remains is to return. Return inward, return to yourself. And in that return, something reorganizes, something brightens, something aligns. There is a silent strength that begins to emanate from a woman when she lives alone. It is not the strength of effort, nor of resistance. It is the strength of alignment. When no one interferes with her frequency, when her choices are not shaped by external expectations, when her energy is not fragmented into multiple social roles, something rare happens. She vibrates with purity, with coherence, with intensity. Quantum physics teaches us that everything in the universe is energy in motion. Every thought, every emotion, every intention, everything vibrates. But what truly attracts, what truly manifests, is not just what one thinks or desires. It is the vibrational field sustained around the heart. And this field, according to studies in energetic neuroscience, is up to 5,000 times stronger than the brain's. It does not communicate through words. It communicates presence. It communicates truth. When a woman lives alone, she begins to emit her own frequency without interference, without needing to adjust, please, or conform. And the universe responds to this with precision, because the quantum field responds to vibrational coherence, not appearance. Greg Braden affirms that the field connecting everything, the invisible fabric of reality, reacts to what we feel with integrity, not to what we say or show. That is why a woman at peace with herself carries a magnetic power that cannot be explained, only felt. It is as if, in the silence of her home, she becomes a crystal being slowly polished. With each act of presence, each aligned choice, each elevated thought, her vibration becomes cleaner, clearer, more powerful. And the cleaner the vibration, the more light she radiates, the more life she attracts, the more truth she manifests. But it is not about seeking perfection. It is about tuning in to one's own essence, breathing with intention, moving with awareness, feeling whole, even on the days when emotions fluctuate. This is the practice that intensifies magnetism, inhabiting the body as a temple, the home as a field, and the present moment as an altar. In just a few minutes of alignment between breath, intention, and presence, the entire energetic field reorganizes. Not because something external has changed, but because within, everything has found a new axis, a new frequency, and this frequency is your true power of attraction. It requires no effort, no mask, only truth vibrating in silence. Living alone in this context is much more than freedom. It is energetic expansion. It is an open channel with the field. It is the rare chance to discover that your magnetism does not come from what you have, but from what you vibrate when no one is watching. And in this state of vibrational independence, what once seemed distant begins to draw near, not by chance, but by resonance. There is a different kind of breath that happens when a woman can simply be who she is, without needing to adjust the tone of her voice, without measuring her words, without worrying about what others will think of what she wears, what she feels, what she desires. It is in this space, free from judgment, that the body relaxes, that the mind slows down, that the soul at last emerges. And it is in this state of silent permission that true healing begins. Bruce Lipton affirms that DNA is sensitive to the environment, that the signals we receive from the outside deeply influence the way our genes express themselves. In a space filled with criticism, pressure, or surveillance, the body goes into defense. But in an environment of acceptance, autonomy, and freedom, the body understands. Here, I can exist. And when the body understands this, it vibrates differently. It returns to its natural state of balance. Living alone offers this rare possibility. A woman stops living under the gaze of others and begins to perceive herself through her own feeling. She dresses as she wishes, in her own time, eats as she feels, speaks as she thinks, dances if she wants to, cries if she needs to, grows silent without guilt. And this seemingly simple daily life becomes revolutionary, because each gesture lived with authenticity sends a clear message to the field. Now I am, and the field responds. This authenticity does not arise from confrontation. It arises from intimacy. When there is no need for performance, essence blooms. Little by little, she realizes she no longer needs to mold herself, that she doesn't need to fit, that she doesn't need to please. And the end of social performance allows invisible wounds once kept under the veil of adaptation to begin to heal, not by forgetting, but by reconnecting. It is like a rare flower that only blooms when it is not being observed. Authenticity, to many, may seem fragile, but in truth it is wild. It is ancestral. It carries ancient memories from a time when living was simply existing without the need to explain. And when this memory awakens in a woman's body, everything changes. Energy changes, presence changes, life changes. This blossoming can be subtle, a choice of clothing that reveals a forgotten side, a new rhythm in her walk, a corner of the house decorated by intuition, not by rules. A symbolic gesture of freedom, one that may seem small but vibrates like a mantra. I allow myself. And this permission has a quantum effect, because every time you choose yourself, the universe listens, and it responds. Living alone, then, is not isolation. It is a reunion. It is a return to one's own frequency, without interference, without distortion. And in that return, the body finds what it had long been searching for, a place where it can exist without fear, a life where it can vibrate without interruption, a soul where it can finally breathe in peace. There is a wisdom that is not learned from books nor accessed through words, a wisdom that speaks through sensations, symbols, subtle premonitions. And this wisdom is intuition, not that generic idea of a sixth sense, but a refined, deep ancestral perception, a silent knowing that only blooms when there is enough inner space to hear it. When a woman lives alone, that space expands. The noise of external voices quiets. The emotional demands of others recede. Masks begin to fall. And little by little, the field around her starts to whisper. It is in this calmer environment that the brain shifts into theta waves. Slower, deeper brain states, the same ones we access during meditation, hypnagogic moments, or spiritual connection. And it is in this state that intuition speaks louder, not with exact phrases, but with clues, signs, dreams that seem to carry messages, unexpected encounters, sensations in the body, a soft voice that arises before reason. Greg Braden reminds us that the heart is not just an emotional organ. It is a center of perception, a kind of energetic intelligence that senses the invisible and translates what has not yet been lived but is already being felt. In this silent field, the woman begins to perceive that her sensitivity is not fragility. It is radar. It is a compass. It is a portal. And the farther she moves from the world's noise, the more her field tunes into the unspoken. She learns to navigate not by rational certainties, but by vibrational alignments, by what simply resonates. And what resonates rarely deceives. This listening to the invisible is not mystical in the sense of something unreachable. It is natural. It is physiological. It is spiritual. It is present in all of us. But few cultivate it because it requires silence. It requires time. It requires surrender. And that is what living alone offers. The chance to return to trusting what cannot be seen, to return to hearing what the world teaches us to ignore. The woman who lives alone gradually becomes a quantum navigator, someone who orients herself not only by external maps but by internal constellations. She observes her own cycles, honors her own rhythms, understands her own signals, and she begins to live in sync with something greater, something she does not control but recognizes. Before sleep, she may converse with that invisible field, with God, with the universe, with her own soul. The name doesn't matter, presence does. And upon waking, she notices that the answers have arrived, not always as words, but as lighter feelings, as intuitions that surface during the day, as decisions that finally make sense. This is the listening that transforms. Intuition as a bridge between the visible and the invisible, and living alone as the temple where that bridge is built. A place where the answers don't come from outside, but from within, from an ancient, deep place that has always been there, waiting for silence, waiting for you. Make no mistake, the woman who lives alone is not isolating herself. She is, in fact, integrating, but not with the world that demands, accelerates, and pressures, rather with the invisible field that sustains all life. Solitude, in this context, ceases to be absence and becomes vibrational presence, a frequency of connection with something that cannot be seen, but can be felt with every cell, every breath, every intimate gesture of authenticity. The external independence this woman experiences is only the reflection of a much deeper freedom, vibrational freedom. She does not live alone. She lives in a state of alignment. And when the field around her perceives this, it responds. It delivers synchronicities. It draws near what is in resonance. It reorganizes possibilities. Bruce Lipton reminds us that we are programmable beings, but we are also programmers. And conscious solitude is like a clean operating system where new versions of the self can emerge. New beliefs, new rhythms, new emotions, new ways of being. The woman who once molded herself to fit now manifests herself. Neville Goddard said that everything begins in the imagination felt as reality. And when a woman lives alone, she can imagine without censorship. She can desire without shame. She can visualize without interference. Her home becomes a vibrational rehearsal field, a kind of subtle laboratory where what does not yet exist in the external world already pulses within with such truth that it ends up being created. Because when you inhabit your frequency with truth, everything that does not correspond to it dissolves. And everything that vibrates in harmony draws closer, not as magic, but as law. The woman who aligns with her own essence, with her own field, gently attracts what is already hers by vibrational right. And if at some point you doubted this journey, if you felt that living alone was a kind of punishment or loss, perhaps now you realize it was exactly the opposite. It was the beginning of a transformation, a return inward, a reunion with everything you are, and that could only emerge in the silence of your own presence. What you call loneliness may, in truth, be the most fertile vibrational state of your existence, a silent ground where your soul plants futures, where the universe whispers directions, where the woman you truly are blooms.